The whole world is obsessing over OpenAI's new Ghibli art style. What began as a single tweet by software engineer Grant Slatton exploded into a viral storm, racking up to 46 million views in just 1 hour and kickstarting the Ghibli-style craze. Since then, everyone from casual users to creators have jumped on the trend, turning family portraits, historical events, political moments, memes, and iconic movie scenes into Ghibli-esque dreamscapes. On the surface, it all feels like an innocent celebration of whimsy, nostalgia, and that unmistakable Studio Ghibli magic. But beneath the soft colors and watercolor skies lies a much darker and disturbing truth. And it's not just about plagiarism or copyright infringement. According to Miyazaki himself, I feel like we are nearing the end of times. We humans are losing faith in ourselves. This isn't just a rejection of AI-generated art, it's a warning that we may be losing the very thing that makes art what it is. In a 2008 interview during the Venice Film Festival, Miyazaki was asked why he doesn't switch to digital animation and continues to hand-draw every frame. His response was, "I'm a human being. I don't want to make a film with a machine. I draw because it's how I connect with the soul of the character. Each line carries intention, weight, and emotion. You cannot replicate that with a computer." His response here wasn't just technical, it was deeply philosophical and almost spiritual. But to really understand the depth of his words, we need to go back even further. Hayao Miyazaki was born on January 5, 1941, in a war-torn Tokyo. By the age of 4, he had already lived through bombings, evacuations, and the haunting silence of cities turned to ash. His father, Katsuji Miyazaki, was the director of Miyazaki Airplane, which manufactured rudders for fighter planes during World War II. Miyazaki suffered from digestive problems and was told he would not live beyond 20. In 1993, after his father's death, Miyazaki felt he had often looked at his father negatively because he had never said anything lofty or inspiring to him. He regretted not having a serious discussion with his father and felt he had inherited his anarchistic feelings and his lack of concern about embracing contradictions. From 1947 to 1955, Miyazaki's mother, Yoshiko, suffered from spinal tuberculosis. She spent the first few years in hospital before being nursed from home, forcing Miyazaki and his siblings to take over domestic duties. He aspired to become a manga artist but discovered he could not draw people. Instead, he drew planes, tanks, and battleships for several years. Miyazaki was influenced by several manga artists such as Tetsuji Fukushima, Soji Yamakawa, and Osamu Tezuka. As such, he destroyed much of his early work, believing it was a bad form to copy Tezuka's style, as it was hindering his own development as an artist. At age 17, Miyazaki's passion for animation was reignited after secretly watching Panda and the Magic Serpent, Japan's first full-color animated feature released in 1958. Skipping his entrance exam studies to see it, he was moved to tears by the film's sincerity and emotional depth. It left a lasting impact on him, inspiring a lifelong commitment to creating stories true to his own feelings instead of imitating popular trends. Miyazaki later said the film's pure, earnest world awakened a part of him that longed to affirm life, not deny it. So even this early on, we see glimpses of Miyazaki's commitment to expressing the artist's soul through their work. The pain and struggles he faced during his childhood in a war-torn Japan was always reflected in many of his films. Daisuke Akimoto of Animation Studies categorized Porco Rosso as anti-war propaganda, arguing that Porco's transformation into a pig was partly due to his disgust with militarism. Similarly, The Wind Rises has been described as a reflection of Miyazaki's anti-war pacifism. In 1958, after the success of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, he co-founded Studio Ghibli, and from that little studio came these giants. My Neighbor Totoro, a spirit of the forest inspired by his own childhood. Kiki's Delivery Service, the story of a young girl trying to find independence, reflecting the struggle of Japan's youth. Princess Mononoke, a violent, aching meditation on nature, modernity, and sickness. Every film held a piece of his soul. My Neighbor Totoro, for example, originated from ideas he had when he was a child. He said that Totoro is where my consciousness began. Even the protagonist's mother in the Totoro was inspired by his own. The film was labeled a cult classic. Akira Kurosawa said that the film moved him, naming it among his 100 favorite films, one of few Japanese films to be named. Japan even named an asteroid after the film, the 10160 Totoro, in 1994. In 1987, Studio Ghibli secured the rights to adapt Kiki's Delivery Service, a novel by Ekiko Kadano. Miyazaki saw Kiki's journey as a reflection of the challenges faced by young Japanese girls seeking the independence in the cities. To bring the world of Kiki to life, Miyazaki and senior staff traveled to Sweden, capturing over 80 rolls of films in Stockholm and Visby, locations that deeply inspired the film's setting. This dedication to authenticity and detail shaped the film's unique atmosphere. Released on July 29, 1989, Kiki's Delivery Service became a critical and commercial success. It won the Anime Grand Prix and grossed over 2.15 billion yen at the box office, making it the highest grossing film in Japan that year. In 1995, Miyazaki started working on Princess Mononoke, which he had intended to be his final directorial work at Studio Ghibli, citing his poor eyesight and physical pains. Miyazaki saw himself in the main character, Ashitaka. The sadness in her heart reflected Miyazaki's own feelings at the time. Ashitaka's scar reminded him of real-life conditions children faced, like AIDS, showing how he wanted to connect the story with real-world suffering. All 144,000 frames of Princess Mononoke were hand-drawn, and Miyazaki personally supervised them. That includes about 80,000 keyframes, which are the most important poses in the film's animation, and the rest of the frames are the in-betweens that create smooth movement. Even though the film used some computer animation, it was limited to only about 15 minutes in total with the help of digital tools. The rest of the film was traditional hand-drawn animations on physical cells. Princess Mononoke was produced with an estimated budget of 2.35 billion yen, or approximately $23.5 million US, making it the most expensive Japanese animated film at the time. In interviews and documentaries like The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness and the critically acclaimed Never-Ending Man, Hayao Miyazaki, he elaborates further on his resistance to digital tools. It's not about being stubborn to it, it's rather about respecting the human process behind animation. He believes that hand drawing is a form of meditation, an artist discipline like a martial art. Each frame reflects the animator's soul, capturing tiny imperfections that bring characters to life. Speed is not the goal here. Art should be deliberate. Taking time means giving the story the depth it deserves. This is even more evident in his 2013 feature film and the last movie he directed, The Wind Rises, which was reportedly made up of approximately 170,000 hand-drawn frames. Miyazaki was inspired to create it after reading a quote from renowned aeronautical engineer Jiro Horikoshi. "All I wanted to do was to make something beautiful." Several scenes in the movie were inspired by Tatsuo Hori's novel The Wind Has Risen, in which Hori wrote about his life experiences with his fiancée before she died from tuberculosis. Hence, the female lead character, Naoko Satomi's struggles with tuberculosis echo the illness of Miyazaki's own mother, and Horikoshi's story of growing from a young boy dreaming of airplanes to an inspirational artist is reflective of Miyazaki's own life journey. Deeply personal, The Wind Rises was the first of his films to move Miyazaki to tears. It won Animation of the Year at the 37th Japan Academy Film Prize and earned an Academy Award nomination. In fact, Miyazaki personally storyboarded the entire film by hand, crafting over 900 pages of storyboards, which essentially functioned as a moving manga. The team of animators, many trained directly by Miyazaki, followed those drawings meticulously to preserve the film's emotional nuance and texture. This is especially profound when you realize The Wind Rises isn't a fantasy epic with dragons or spirits. It's a contemplative story about a man who builds planes. And yet it required 170,000 individual drawings, not for spectacle, but to capture the quiet poetry of wind, breath, and longing. There's a well-known particular 4-second earthquake scene that reportedly took 15 months to complete. This wasn't just due to technical complexity, but because of the sheer attention to emotion, atmosphere, and authenticity. Miyazaki didn't want the quake to just look realistic. He wanted it to feel like the earth itself was mourning. He wanted that reflected in every character's facial expressions, body language, and actions. Moreover, Miyazaki rejected digital sound samples entirely, only using human voices to mimic the rumbling. He wanted the quake to feel alive. While most modern animated films rely heavily on digital shortcuts and CGI, The Wind Rises was one of the last major feature films to be created almost entirely through traditional animation. When you place this kind of labor beside a viral AI-generated Ghibli-style image made in 15 seconds with a prompt, you begin to understand why Miyazaki called it an insult to life itself. But the truth is, it gets much darker than this. In a 2016 NHK documentary series by Kaku Arukawa, there's a scene where a group of designers and animators presented an AI-generated animation project to Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli producer Toshio Suzuki. The so-called creation was a grotesque, nightmarish entity, something that looked like it had crawled straight out of a horror film. The AI had animated the creature to drag itself along the floor in a disturbingly unnatural way. "It looks like it's dancing," the presenter explains, sounding desperate. "It moves by using its head. It doesn't feel any pain and has no concept of protecting its head. It uses its head like a leg." This movement was so creepy and could be applied to a zombie video game. Artificial intelligence could present us with grotesque movements that we humans can't imagine. Why the team thought this was the best example to show one of the greatest animators of all time is anyone's guess, but Miyazaki's reaction was swift and brutal. After taking a moment to gather his thoughts, he delivered one of the most scathing critiques of AI-generated art. "Every morning, not in recent days, I see my friend who has a disability," Miyazaki said. It's so hard for him to just do a high five. His arms with stiff muscles can't reach out to my hand. Now, thinking of him, I can't watch this stuff and find it interesting. Whoever creates this stuff has no idea what pain is. Silence filled the room. And then, just to drive the point home, Miyazaki added, "I am utterly disgusted. If you really want to make creepy stuff, you can go ahead and do it, but I would never wish to incorporate this technology into my work at all. I strongly feel that this is an insult to life itself." The presenter, visibly uncomfortable, scrambled for a justification. "This is just our experiment. We didn't intend to do anything by showing it to the world," he insisted. When Suzuki pressed further, asking what the ultimate goal was, one of the team members replied, "We want to build a machine that can draw pictures like humans do." But the so-called creation had barely managed to animate a human-like figure, and Miyazaki wasn't buying it. He concluded the discussion with a chilling remark, "I feel like we are nearing the end of times. We humans are losing faith in ourselves. If you don't spend time drawing by hand, you'll never understand the soul of animation." So for Miyazaki, rejecting digital shortcuts is an act of preservation, not just of tradition, but of authentic human expression in an increasingly mechanized world. Even at 81 years old, Miyazaki draws every day. His commitment to the craft is everlasting and admirable. He trains interns, sketches by hand, and insists on being present in every stage of production. Discipline isn't about rigid schedules. It's about showing up for your art every day, even when it's hard. So in essence, Ghibli doesn't just tell stories, it reminds us that creation is an act of love. Love for nature, for simplicity, for children, for the small moments that make life worth living. As creators, that's what we strive for too, to notice the world and give something meaningful back to it.